Okay, we're going to take a look at the arm model here. Now, you're going to have to bear with me because I do have to flip this over, turn it around, do a couple of things with it during the video. So first of all, I want to just point out a couple of things regarding looking at this model. I put this in the anatomical position, the palm facing forward. And I just want to let you know that the flexors are always going to be found on the anterior aspect of both the arm and the forearm. So we're looking at the anterior aspect. So this entire thing here is the anterior aspect because it's facing forward. Okay, so your flexors are always anterior. The other thing I want to point out here is that this is the thumb, and the thumb is on the radial side of the forearm. Okay, so the radius would be underneath here. Here's the pinky, and the ulna is on the pinky side, so the ulna runs under here. If we flip this over, we'd be looking at the posterior aspect. Okay, and your extensors are found on the posterior aspect. So here's the posterior arm, here's the posterior forearm. Okay, so those would be extensors. All right, so we're going to start with the muscles that do flexion at the elbow or flex the forearm. Okay, so here's our elbow joint right here. So the big flexor of the forearm, of course, is the bicep brachii. Here's your bicep brachii. It's a big, huge muscle, has two heads, hard to miss it. All right, it's the prime mover for flexion at the forearm. Remember, flexion is decreasing the angle. So we would basically be taking the forearm and we'd be bringing it this way. The synergist to that is located right underneath it, and that's the brachialis muscle. Okay, that starts the action of flexion at the forearm. Now I'm going to flip this over because you can see the brachialis better if you look at it from the other side. And there it is right there, right underneath the bicep. Okay, so here's the bicep, and here is the brachialis. And then the other muscle that's listed with flexors and rotators of the forearm is the brachioradialis. Now the brachioradialis is this muscle right here. Okay, so it starts on the brachium, which is the arm, the humerus, and it comes down along the radial aspect. Okay, and I'm going to flip this so you can see it just from a little bit different view. So I flipped it a little bit so you can see the anterior. So here's the brachioradialis right there. Okay, comes all the way down to the thumb. That muscle is very prominent in people like carpenters and people that use their hands and arms a lot for their work. Okay. Now the extensors of the forearm would have to be located on the posterior aspect. So again, we'll flip this back. Now we're looking at the tricep. Okay, so big, huge muscle. Covers pretty much the entire posterior aspect of your arm. Remember, again, arm is upper arm. So that's the tricep. And that does extension at the elbow, extension of the forearm. All right, let's go to the arms that move the hand and the wrist and the fingers. Okay. Now I'm actually going to change this, turn it around this way a little bit. And we're going to look at it this way now so you can see the whole thing. Okay, so again, we're in the anatomical position. There's our thumb, radial side. Here's our pinky, okay? So that's the ulnar side. So we're going to kind of zoom in here, and on the anterior aspect, we have four muscles. I'm going to kind of go this way. You see 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll start with this little guy here, pronator teres. Pronator teres does do some flexion of the forearm, but mostly it pronates the forearm. Remember, that's flipping the hand over. Supination, I can carry soup. The palms facing up. Pronation, I flip my hands over. That's pronator teres. This muscle here is going to be flexor carpi radialis. Flexor because it's anterior, carpi because it crosses the wrist, radialis because it's on the thumb side. Just a little adjustment here. In the middle, we have palmaris longus. There's palmaris longus. I'm going to come back and show you some things about palmaris longus that are going to make you learn it better. There's palmaris longus. And then if we come over here on the radial side, we've got, I'm sorry, on the ulnar side, we've got flexor carpi ulnaris right here, pinky side. There's the pinky. Flexor carpi ulnaris. Okay, palmaris longus is in between flexor carpi radialis and flexor carpi ulnaris. Kind of a big hint for palmaris longus, at least on this model, is that it's got a peg in it right there. And another thing that is a hint is if you go up close, you can see the tendon, and the tendon goes over the top of this structure right here. Okay, so this structure right here is called the flexor retinaculum. A retinaculum is simply a band of fascia that holds tendons in place. These are the flexor muscles. This is the flexor retinaculum. And the palmaris longus tendon goes over the top of it. All the other tendons go under it. All right, let's flip this guy over and look at the extensors. There's just two of them that you have to know on the back of the forearm. Okay. So we'll start with extensor digitorum. Here's extensor digitorum. Runs right down the middle aspect of the posterior forearm, right there. Now, that's called extensor digitorum, and the reason it's called digitorum is because it extends the digits, the fingers. Any muscle with the term digitorum means it's got multiple tendons. So you can see here, you've got a tendon here that comes from it, you've got a tendon there that comes from it, you've got a tendon here that comes from it, and even one over here. So anytime you see digitorum, you're looking for a muscle with multiple tendons. Okay. And then the other one that you need to know is extensor carpi ulnaris. So that's going to be this guy right here. Okay. Again, ulnaris, which means it's on the pinky side. There you see the pinky. Extensor carpi ulnaris. Okay. So those are the muscles on the arm model.